So since we finished the Pour the Milk track, I don't have anything to work on for these videos. So what I thought would be good would be if I show you how I come up with ideas, what I do to generate a 4-bar, 8-bar loop, and then work around that to actually flesh out an original track. No remixes this time, just an original Hey Dan track. So as you can see here, I've got some different folders full of project. Now these are old ideas. I don't know how far back they go down to. This is the originals and other. So the way I kind of break up my projects is a lot of them start in the ideas folder, and then if I end up liking one of these, I'll move it over to the original or the remix depending on what it is. And a lot of these are just created from sitting over there at like 11 o'clock at night, just messing around with sounds and loops and whatnot, and sometimes things stick, other times they don't, but that's pretty much what this folder is. And as you can see, a lot of them are FL Studio because that's how long ago I made them. So when I first opened Ableton, I have my own template. It's a bit outdated at this point because I don't actually use it in this way, but I recommend creating your own template just to speed up the process of things that you might do all the time. So on mine, for example, I've got all this stuff on the master chain. We've got Ozone 8, which is just the basic preset, high detailed compressed. The utility, just so I can quickly change between mono. I should key map that actually, but again, this template needs refinement at this point, because what I found out is that I'm not actually using it how I intended to use it, which I'll explain in a bit. So yeah, for mono, and then I also use the gain and width when I'm doing breakdowns and stuff. It's just a little trick to narrow in the sound and lower it by 1 dB before the main drop comes back in. Span, just an analyzer, and then the Ulean loudness meter, which measures the sound in LUFs. I've got everything in my groups which I like to use. So low end, which would be drum and kick, kick and bass. Got the drums, which is going to be collapsed hi-hats, closed hats, all that stuff. Percussions, vocals, music, effects. What I originally thought would be cool for the ideas phase anyway, would be to actually have a load of samples loaded in like a drum rack, all the ones that like I liked at the time. But what I found is I feel like I just end up deleting them anyway and starting from scratch. But what I tend to do anyway is just throw in drum loops that I like, and some more with different percussion. I tend to just delete this at this point and completely start from scratch. I guess there's a couple of different ways I go about starting a track. Really depends on what mood I'm in. So like if I don't have a vision for I've not got an idea of anything, then I'll tend to just go straight to a VST and mess around with the sounds until something comes to me. I'm going to open Serum first because I've recently got Deceiver 2. I'll run through some of these sounds and then just see what I like at the time. Sometimes I'll start with drums depending on if I'm in the mood to do some sort of kind of like percussive groove track. Sometimes I might start with piano if I'm in the mood for some sort of soulful house. Really depends, but I'll show you how I go about things using a plugin first. Thing I like to do when I'm looking through sounds is actually start, if one sticks out to me, I start messing around with all the other little bits and just see what changes like in terms of the sound. So if I start messing around with the resonance, just to see if more ideas come to mind, making the sound wide. Because what I like to do when I'm making tracks is actually mess around with these sort of things as the track's playing. So you might have a very simple bass line. That sounds pretty cool, so I'm going to try and do something around that for now. Don't look how long it goes on for. Alright, so we've got the bass, and then I would do some sort of melody bass melody. I do have a couple of nice midis that can just be dropped in. That's what is good with this Deceiver pack. There's some basic bass melodies. It's quite cool, but it's a bit too low. Yeah, I like the rhythm of that. And then just to restart it, I can then put it all back down to one key. Very subby this. What I quite like to do is have two separate basses for this. So I'd have an actual sub bass. So I'd cut the sub bass off this. Yeah, cut the sub bass off this and then basically have another version of this. Sometimes I'll change the sound out, or I might just flip the EQ around and you've got the sub on its own as well. In this case, I'd probably just use a dedicated sub. I did see one in here, clean sub. At this point, I don't know what key the song's going to be in. I'm just moving notes around until I like the vibe of it. Cool. I'm gonna get kickstart on the bass. So got a basic pattern. So next is the drums. Now the drums, again, something really simple. We start with the kick, then I will add a clap, a shaker and a hi-hat. Nothing revolutionary there. Also, when I'm looking for kicks, I don't necessarily try and find them in the same key. I'm actually looking for a vibe, one that fits with the bass line or what I'm thinking of. But this one's a nice kick, and luckily it's in F sharp, so I'll just transpose it down one semitone, and now it's in F. I like to be very organised from the start. It just helps me navigate the project when I come back to it. I just know that all the low end's going to be at the top, the drums are going to be next, percussion next, and so on. And I do this on every project. Okay, so we need to mix these sounds a bit better, because right now it's very loud. Don't always roll off the low end on a kick, but sometimes it makes the kick sound tighter. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's worth trying. What I like to do is group everything that I've got and then just turn it off and on again, just to weigh the original sound and to make sure that what I'm doing is actually making an improvement. Very hard hitting this. I think I need to shorten some of these MIDI notes. I don't quite like the sustain on them. Mainly these long ones. Make this longer and then do some sort of variation to it. Yes, I like that. Okay, copy that to the sub. Right, good start. Let's move on to some drums. What I've been doing recently, creating drum racks for sounds and then layering up sounds. So with a clap, for example, I'll have 3 different claps. Just to have one in the center, one that's a bit more stereo, or 2, one extremely pan to the left and one to the right. So you can see here that this one's got a bit of stereo to it. I quite like having a snare sounding one down the center, just to give it some weight. one that's mono, this one's stereo, but I don't like the sound of it, so what I'm going to do is going to pan this one to the left and then have another one pan to the right. Still not sure of the vibe yet, so I'm not sure if these claps are going to make it in the end. The vibe I'm getting currently listening to this is some sort of Chris Lake kind of style. So we've got the one down the centre, one on the left, one on the right. Then I will do some sort of EQing on all of them if needs be. I'm not going to do it in this case, I'm just going to EQ all of them together, get rid of any lows, do a little boost in places. Okay, let's hear it with this track. Stuff feels a bit lopsided to me. Another little trick I like to do, glue compressor, put the range all the way down, the soft clip on, just group these two together, and then I put the makeup up like to 10 and then the gain back down to 10 and just listen to how it sounds. What I want you to look at is the levels that it's hitting at. So with it off, we're at 7.83, with it on, 17.6. So this is adding saturation to the sound, so it's adding more frequencies, making it sound louder when it's not actually louder. So that's why I have the makeup and the gain, bringing it back down. So if you listen to it on its own, it actually sounds the same volume. Maybe without it on is actually slightly louder. Completely different vibe, so I'm going to pull it back down to 10. There's a perfect visual indicator of what's actually changed. So we're actually squishing the peaks of the clap, which is what we want. Moving on, so next I would do maybe a shaker or a hi-hat. Let's try a hi-hat actually, because it's sounding like a very minimal track at this point. Sometimes I like to do the same thing as I've done with the clap. I'd have one in mono, this one's already in mono, and then one that's a bit wider. But in this case, I'm just gonna stick an ozone imager on it and make it more stereo. Again, check how it sounds in mono. Fine. Next, let's add a shaker. Let's check out the ozone imager on this as well. Yeah, as I thought. Sounds fine. So this is a thing that I do as I'm building the track as well, just checking out how the stereo imaging looks for pretty much all the drums. Because the drums and the bass is such an important part of a tech house track, those sounds need to be great in mono, so it sounds great in a club. Okay, so at this point, there's something there, very basic. This is kind of where the project might start to differ from what I've done before. So depending on the vibe that I'm getting, I might move just directly to the percussion. I might go and look for a vocal. I may go look through Serum and some sounds or some leads or some effects. That will then inspire me with this track and give me some ideas for which direction I want to take it. The thing you need to remember here is I'm not actually using any sort of reference track. In this case, when I'm just throwing out ideas, I try not to use a reference track, just so the track feels more unique in that way. Obviously, I mentioned Chris Lake before, that's the vibe I'm getting now. So what I would do as I'm building on this track would be I'd actually go and look at Chris Lake's songs and then maybe find a reference after I've built some sort of foundation. That way it would feel a bit more my own style rather than Chris Lake's style. I'm going to look at more percussion. Still keep it quite minimal. I don't think we need to do some sort of like mad tech house bongo loop, but I feel like this track would benefit from some sort of rim shot hits or 909 stuff. still feeling this track is going to probably be a minimal sounding one, but what I'm going to do now is I'm not finding any more kind of percussion-y sounds that I like, so what I will then do is go through some loops. If there's any parts that stand out to me, I'll try and cut those out and keep them in the song. So already in that, there's kind of a vibe before the clap hits. So it's kind of like a whoosh sound, so it's swooshing into the clap. Sometimes I might think, oh, that's a cool idea, but like maybe this part of the sound in the loop I don't like, so I'll be like, okay, there's a swoosh there, let's see if I can add one in myself. So that's quite long, but obviously we can manipulate. So I'm actually hitting on the clap lighter. So there you go, I like that. A bit of texture. Nothing in there that I like, so move on to the next one. Okay, this bit stood out to me here. So what I'm thinking here is, I like that kind of vocal. What would be cool is if we did that with an actual vocal that we found. Kind of works as well because with the bass only hitting there, there's a bit of a gap, so we could potentially fill that in with a vocal. I'm going to keep that in, but I'm going to mute it, keep it in for an idea. Okay, I'm going to leave it there because I'm not quite sure what it is I'm looking for. It does still feel a bit too empty, so let's get this saved in the ideas folder. Let's spend some time on Splice, see if we can find a vocal. So the camera just cut off, so I can't remember what part we were up to before it cut off. What I was talking about, if it got caught on camera, was I felt that the bass would benefit from some reverb. So what I've done is I've created an extra return channel, put it all the way up on the reverb, and then that's what I'm currently doing basically. Also just going to give the drums a little bit of I like a room reverb. It's just the default one that was there at the start, so let's hear that. Do the same for the percussion. Okay, I don't want to spend too much longer on this, but let's see if I can do anything with the lead. That's quite nice. Very cool. I'm going to record it actually. Resample mode. Right, what was my plan? I probably needed to drown it in reverb first for the effect I was going for. But it's fine for now. Sorry about that. Ooh, that bit's nice. Pure accident, but what I was trying to do is I wanted this effect, so I wanted it to kind of swoosh in. What I need to do for this is I need to record this one bit, drown it in reverb, and then swoosh it in. Then reverse it, and then I can make it sound as if it's swooshing in. What I ended up trying then, just to see, was reversing this and then messing around, and this just adds an extra layer to it. So that's really cool, I like that. Let's do this. But the goal with this was to delete that. Reverse, put you there, put you there. I think that would also benefit from a bit of reverb. Put the kick after it so the reverb also gets side changed. And then we could do some sort of different version here just to mix it up a bit. Going back to the auto pan trick I like to do. Cool. This has actually turned out a lot better than I thought it would. I didn't actually plan on saving the idea. I just kind of wanted to show the process, but it's turned out really well. So I might actually finish this. I've never done a Chris Lake style track before. So yeah, that's how I go about making these ideas. What I would do now with this, there's quite a lot to work with here. There's still more I can add to it. A pad or a string might sound pretty cool. Obviously effects, I've not added any effects in yet, but there's a good foundation here for a full track. The vocals are boring really, but I just threw them in to show you how I would go about coming up with an idea right now that I'd probably want to change that to something a bit more like the I Remember song, for example. It's a proper vocal, it's not just whatever this chick's saying. Play Your Love, I don't know, I'm not certain what she's saying, but I really like the lead. The lead's coming together nicely with all these effects, and it literally took me not even 10 minutes. Yeah, this is how I work. Another way I do work it with like a reference at the start. So if I did have, I really liked this song, for example, I would drop that in and then find two more that I liked, go through those, pick out parts that I like. So it's like, oh, they've got this sort of vocal effect and this is the bass kind of sound they've used this sort of percussion, and then I would build the track that way. But the majority of the time, this is how I would start a track. Start with some sort of bass or melody, then the drums, then just start building on it. So percussion, vocals, music, synths. If you want me to carry on with this one, let me know. If enough people like the video and comment, then I'll know then that you're actually interested in me finishing this. So that's something that I'll leave in your hands. Thanks for watching the video. Go subscribe if you haven't already. Give it a like. Do all the YouTube stuff. and I'll see you next time.